Brief pretrial matters to take care of before we get started?
Absolutely. Can I have your name first?
Yes, Your Honor. My name is Will Odom. I'm here with my co-counselors Jessa Fletcher, Chelsea Chiagana. We represent the people of the state of Midlands in this matter. We have just two quick evidentiary matters to deal with.
Okay, wait there 1 second.
Sure.
Defense, present and ready.
Yes, Your Honor. My name is Laura Strack, and I, along with my co-counsel, John Mack, and Josh Jones, represent the defendant in this case, Danny Dawson.
Okay, pretrial matters.
Your Honor, the state has a photograph of the victim in this case, Vanessa Sullivan. We offer that in evidence now as State's Exhibit 1.
Objections?
We would simply ask that when they use that they refrain from using the picture in openings until they've had a chance to properly identify it and enter it. It hasn't been stipulated as pre-admissible. We ask that they refrain from using it.
Response.
Your Honor, opposing counsel was showed this photograph before the trial. Its authenticity is stipulated. Its admissibility is not. If opposing counsel has an objection to admissibility, it would be the time to take care of that now. There's no predicate that needs to be laid for this photograph as of right now. That's why we're offering it as evidence.
Your Honor, we were shown it in pretrial, and we have no problem with the photo itself being a photo of Vanessa Sullivan. However, the admissibility of the photo can still be called into question later through whatever witness they offer it under.
Your Honor, we're not offering this under a specific witness. We're offering it into evidence right now.
Your Honor,
Since it's been stipulated as authentic, is that right?
yes, Your Honor. If I might respond quickly, there's several other objections that could come up, such as it being more prejudicial than probative.
Your Honor,
At this time, I'm going to allow it for opening statement only. If you have other objections, you're welcome to raise them during trial.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, photo is in for opening.
second, Your Honor, what happened in this case, the defendant, after getting in a car accident, was asked to take a breathalyzer analysis, and he refused to do so, as required by him by law. We have the breath test operator's report showing that he refused to do that. Opposing counsel has waived all objections to the admissibility of this document, and we offer it in evidence as State's Exhibit 2.
Response.
No objections, Your Honor.
Okay, it's in.
May I approach the bench?
You may.
Can I see what you're giving her first?
I'm showing opposing counsel. Your Honor, with that, the people of the state of Midlands are ready for trial.
We have a few pretrial issues, Your Honor. First of all, we'd like to know how you want your court would run. Would you allow us free use of the well during openings, closings, directs, and cross-examinations? Would you be willing to stipulate that all witnesses are pre-sworn?
Absolutely.
At this time, Your Honor, we would also like to invoke the rule that all witnesses except for party representatives be sequestered.
Okay. Do you have any parties you want in?
Yes, Your Honor, the state's party representative will be Officer Ryan Foster, the arresting officer.
And who will be playing Officer Foster? We would also like to designate Danny Dawson as our party representative.
He's a defendant, right?
Yes, Your Honor. We'd also like to ask who you want us to address our arguments to. Trial is a jury trial, but for the purposes of this mock trial, would you like us to address you or the jury?
I'll go for the jury over there.
All right. We would also like for all our objections to be argued constructively outside the hearing of the jury. Is that okay with you?
Yes, it is.
Would you like us to ask before approaching opposing counsel, the witness, every time, the first time?
Ask the first time before you approach the witness.
All right. Would you like us to ask about approaching opposing counsel?
That's fine.
All right. And finally, we'd like to know how you want your experts entered. Would you like us to just lay the foundation or actually qualify them as experts?
Unless your opposing counsel have an objection, I think laying out suffice.
All right.
That's fine.
And finally, we have a few relevant documents we'd like to tender to the court, the special instructions, the relevant case law, the penal code for Midlands, the indictment, the jury instructions, and the order on motions in limine. Let the record reflect, I'm now showing them to opposing counsel. And with that, Your Honor, the defense is ready to proceed.
Opening statements.
May it please the court. The defendant was supposed to be the designated driver, but the defendant drove drunk. Because the defendant drove drunk, a young girl is dead. Vanessa Sullivan, she was a happy, smart, 21-year-old girl. The kind that made the responsible decisions. The kind of girl that made her parents proud. So when Vanessa Sullivan wanted to go out to celebrate her 21st birthday, she decided to use a designated driver. That designated driver was supposed to be the defendant. But what you're going to hear today is that when the defendant got to the bar at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, he started drinking. He had drink after drink after drink until he had a shot on his way out the door of the bar at 1 o'clock in the morning. And after all those drinks, you're going to hear that the defendant got behind the wheel of a car. You're going to get to hear how the defendant was acting before he got in the car. You're going to hear that he was stumbling, slurring, spilling his drinks, falling down drunk. That's the condition he was in when he decided to drive 2 young girls home. You're going to hear from a taxi driver who was standing outside that bar. A taxi driver who tried to offer the girls and the defendant a ride home. A taxi driver who wanted them to get home safely. But the defendant refused. He refused to get in the taxi. He got in the car and sped away so quickly you're going to hear he fishtailed on his way out of the parking lot. You're also going to hear from an accident reconstructionist that he didn't stop speeding there. He kept speeding all the way down the road. Despite the fact that it was 1 o'clock in the morning, it was pitch black, he kept speeding. Despite the fact that it started pouring rain, he kept speeding. Despite the fact that the defendant was coming up on a curve, in the rain, in the dark, with 2 young girls in the car, he didn't slow down. He kept speeding. The defendant got behind the wheel of a car after drinking, without concern for the lives of the 2 innocent girls in that car with him. After the defendant got behind the wheel of the car, he started swerving. He started swerving down the road, and he swerved 1 too many times. And he slid off the road, slammed into a tree and a utility pole, and killed Vanessa Sullivan. After the defendant crashed the car that killed Vanessa Sullivan, you're going to hear he was asked to do some field sobriety tests. Field sobriety tests that the defendant failed. Because the defendant could not pass field sobriety tests, you're going to hear from the police officer he was asked to take a breathalyzer test. He refused to take a breathalyzer test. As the prosecution, we have the burden of proof. We have to prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant was driving under the influence, and that the type of risks that he took the night of the accident are substantial and unjustifiable risks that constitute murder. The risk that the defendant took was the risk of killing an innocent girl. The risk that the defendant took when he had drink after drink after drink and got behind the wheel of a car was a risk that took the life away of a 21-year-old girl whose parents will now put flowers on her tombstone every year on her birthday. find the defendant guilty.